There are watch brands that reference professional heritage. And then there is Breitling, a manufacturer that has been supplying instruments to pilots, divers, and racing drivers since 1884, whose watches have sat in cockpits, on flight decks, and on the wrists of astronauts, not because the marketing department arranged it, but because the instruments earned their place there. In 2026, the lineup is the strongest it has ever been. Today, we are counting down the 10 best Breitling watches worth owning right now, from a triathlon-ready endurance sport piece that redefines what a rubber-cased watch can be, all the way to the single most historically significant pilot's watch ever produced. Stick around to the end. Number 1 is not the most complicated watch on this list. It is simply the one that defined an entire category and has never been surpassed in it. Number 10, Breitling Endurance Pro. The Breitling Endurance Pro opens this list by making an argument that most Swiss manufacturers have not been willing to make, that high-performance sport watches do not require metal cases, and that the right polymer construction delivers a wearing experience that steel cannot match for sustained athletic use. The 44mm case is constructed from Breitlight, Breitling's proprietary high-tech polymer composite, developed to deliver impact resistance, scratch resistance, and a weight reduction of approximately 75% compared to equivalent steel construction. On the wrist during a triathlon, a century ride, or a marathon, that weight difference is not incidental. It is the distinction between a watch you forget and one you do not. The light blue, yellow, and orange dial variant delivers the high-contrast legibility that endurance athletes require during activity. Large numerals, bold hands, and a layout optimized for a half-second glance rather than a studied read. The 100th second chronograph function provides timing precision appropriate to competitive performance measurement. The Breitling caliber B82 inside delivers a 70-hour power reserve from an in-house automatic movement. Number 9, Breitling Premier B01 Chronograph 42. Norton Edition. Breitling's collaboration with Norton Motorcycles is the meeting of two British heritage industrial legends, and the Premier B01 Norton Edition is the product that earns that description rather than merely claiming it. Norton Motorcycles was founded in Birmingham in 1898. Their racing heritage spans the Isle of Man TT, the Brooklyn Circuit, and a century of British motorsport that shaped the visual language of industrial design as profoundly as any watchmaker. The Premier B01 Norton Edition translates that heritage into a 42mm stainless steel case with a silver dial featuring a tachymeter scale, a subtle Norton racing reference integrated into the dial architecture, and a racing leather strap in tan that references the leather motorcycle gear of the period. Number 8, Breitling Super Ocean Automatic 46. The Super Ocean 46 is Breitling's bold statement that a professional dive watch should be unapologetically large, and then backing that statement with dive credentials serious enough that the size feels justified rather than gratuitous. The 46mm stainless steel case delivers a wrist presence that the Super Ocean 44 does not produce. This is a watch that reads immediately as a professional dive instrument from across a room, in the same way that large dive watches from the 1960s and 70s did before the industry normalized smaller case dimensions. The unidirectional rotating ceramic bezel provides scratch and chemical resistance appropriate to repeated saltwater exposure. Water resistance is 300 meters with a screw-down crown and case construction verified to professional dive standards. The dial color options, turquoise, yellow, orange, and black, give the Super Ocean 46 a visual energy that separates it from the conservative black-only approach most dive watches default to. Each color is executed with the same technical specification beneath it, making the choice an expression of personality rather than a trade-off in credentials. Number 7, Breitling Top Time Classic Cars Edition. The Breitling Top Time has one of the most specific and documented origin stories in the brand's catalog, and the Classic Cars Edition is its most fully realized modern expression. The original Top Time was introduced in 1965 and became one of the defining sports chronographs of the decade, worn by James Bond in Thunderball, raced on circuits across Europe, and carried by a generation of drivers who needed elapsed time measurement in a case small enough to fit under a driving glove. The Classic Cars edition restores the 41mm cushion case that gave the original its distinctive profile and pairs it with vintage-correct dial colorways that reference the period without cosplay. The Triumph variant, the Shelby Cobra edition, and the Ford Mustang reference each carry specific visual language tied to the automotive partnership behind them. The Breitling Caliber B09 inside is a manufacturer chronograph movement, in-house Cox certified, delivering a 70-hour power reserve with the column wheel construction that premium chronograph execution demands. The execution is period correct in aesthetic and modern in every mechanical regard, the combination that separates genuine heritage revival from decorative nostalgia. Number 6. Breitling Avenger Automatic GMT. The Avenger platform was built for pilots and aviation professionals who needed a watch that could be operated with gloves on, read in a cockpit at arm's length, and worn through the physical demands of flight operations without requiring protective handling. The Automatic GMT adds dual time zone tracking to that operational brief, and the result is one of the most practically complete aviation watches in Breitling's current lineup. The 45mm stainless steel case carries the Avenger's characteristic architecture, the asymmetric crown guards, the oversized crown sized for gloved hand operation, and the deeply recessed pushers that prevent accidental activation during handling. Every physical element reflects the operational environment for which the watch was designed. Nothing is decorative. Everything is present because aviation use demanded it. Number 5. Breitling Premier Heritage B09. Chronograph. The Premier Heritage B09 is Breitling stepping away from the cockpit and the dive deck entirely and demonstrating that the same manufacturing discipline that produces professional instruments can produce a dress chronograph of genuine refinement when the brief demands it. The 40mm yellow gold or stainless steel case presents a slim profile appropriate to formal wear. The case height is controlled, the lug width is proportional, and the overall silhouette lies close to the wrist in a way that the sportier Breitling platforms deliberately do not. The dial executes the 3-register chronograph layout with restraint, subsidiary seconds at 9, 30-minute counter at 3, 12-hour counter at 6, in a configuration that distributes visual weight evenly across the dial surface. The strap options, smooth leather in brown or black, complete the formal character without the rubber and steel bracelet choices that define the professional Breitling platforms. The deployant clasp is flush and appropriately refined. The overall presentation is a Breitling designed for dinner rather than the cockpit, which is a more difficult design brief than it sounds, and one the Premier Heritage meets with conviction. Number 4. Breitling Chronomat B01. 42. The Chronomat is Breitling's flagship sports watch, the model that has represented the brand's sports chronograph identity since 1984, and the one that most completely captures what Breitling stands for when it is operating at the center of its design philosophy. The 42mm stainless steel case is the most refined Chronomat proportion, carrying the rider tabs on the bidirectional rotating bezel that distinguish the platform from every other sports chronograph in the market, while keeping the overall dimensions accessible enough for everyday wear without the imposing presence of the 44mm variant. The rider tabs are not decorative. They originate from pilots' glove operation requirements in the original 1984 design, functional solutions that became visual signatures over 4 decades of continuous production. Number 3. Breitling Super Ocean Heritage. 57. The Super Ocean Heritage. 57 is Breitling making the same argument the original 1957 Super Ocean made, that a professional dive watch can be as visually striking as it is technically capable, and making it more convincingly than the original ever could. The 42mm case references the 1957 Super Ocean architecture directly, the waffle-textured bracelet or strap, the broad arrow-tipped hands, the lollipop seconds hand, and the bold 60-minute bezel graduation that the original established as the visual language of the professional dive watch. These are not arbitrary design choices applied to create vintage atmosphere. They are the original solutions to dive watch legibility problems, solutions that the industry spent the following decades proving were correct. The dial colorways available, ocean blue, turquoise, black, and limited edition references, are executed with the depth of finish that modern production enables, and that the 1957 original could not achieve within its manufacturing constraints. The aquamarine blue on the tropical variant shifts between blue and green across changing light conditions in a way that no solid color can replicate. Number 2, Breitling Navitimer, B01 chronograph. 46. The Navy timer B01 46 is the boldest expression of the most important pilot's watch ever made, and it does not apologize for any of it. The 46mm case is the statement version of the Navitimer, a size that reflects the watch's original brief as a cockpit instrument rather than a dress piece, and that wears with the commanding presence appropriate to a watch with over 70 years of aviation heritage behind it. The slide rule bezel runs the full outer circumference of the case, a genuine aeronautical calculation tool for fuel consumption, speed over distance, unit conversion, and climb rate, in the scale calibration that pilots have used since 1952. The black dial with contrasting register colors, the bicompax layout with the slide rule running beyond the bezel edge, is the Navitimer at its most visually assertive. The applied bead set indices, the luminous Arabic outer ring, and the 3-register chronograph display create a dial of genuine complexity that rewards examination without demanding it for basic legibility. Number 1, Breitling Navitimer Automatic. 41 by Breitling with direct input from the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association in 1952 and continuously in production ever since. The AOPA collaboration is the foundation of everything the Navitimer represents. In 1952, Breitling worked directly with the AOPA to develop a wristwatch that could perform the in-flight calculations that pilots conducted manually: fuel consumption management, speed over distance, climb and descent rate, unit conversion between metric and imperial measurements. The circular slide rule on the bezel was not a decorative reference to aviation. It was the calculation instrument, sized and calibrated to be operated with a gloved hand, readable at arm's length in a cockpit, accurate to the tolerances that flight planning demands. The 41mm case on this reference is the most daily wearable Navitimer proportion, carrying the full slide rule bezel, the 3-register chronograph dial, and the complete aeronautical identity of the platform in a size that transitions from cockpit to formal context without the oversized presence of the 46mm variants. The lug-to-lug dimension sits comfortably across a broad range of wrist sizes while maintaining the visual authority that the Navitimer's design demands. The dial is available in black, blue, and silver, each executing the registered bicompax layout with the consistency of a design that has been refined across 7 decades of continuous production.